Welcome to the Pantheon Plus Rewind.
Happy Sunday to everybody who's hanging out with us here for episode 57 of the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen Rewind. As always, our goal with this show is to continue to build community and hopefully keep those waiting for Pantheon entertained with fun and even sometimes some thought-provoking conversation. Typically, we'll hover that conversation around Pantheon systems as well as MMORPGs in general. Every week, we discuss any news from Visionary Realms or perhaps dig deep into community conversations around various social media platforms like Reddit, Facebook, Discord, etc. And we try to keep those conversations alive while giving our opinions and takes on various subjects. We do our best to highlight community members by shouting out their Twitter or their Discord names and ensure the community has a voice, because that's what Pantheon Plus is all about. Now, with that said, if you just had to listen to this voice for this entire show, you'd run in terror. So thankfully, I'm always joined by my friend Theric to help me spice up this show. So how's it going this week, Theric?
Going really, really well, man. Really well. This is a weekend that is kind of crazy. This is my 17th wedding anniversary this week. I've been married for 17 years, if you can believe that. I can't even believe it.
That's a rare thing these days.
Yeah, I know. Like crazy. And I'm not very wise. Don't want to say I've learned a lot through 17 years of marriage, but I've learned a couple things. And one of those things is that when you find a good show that you enjoy together with your partner, that's like striking gold. And we're very different in terms of the kinds of shows we like. Like, she started watching Game of Thrones with me. She was out after season 1. She's like, nope, Ned died, I'm out. But recently I've talked about Mythic Quest before, and season 2 of Mythic Quest just came out. So I was like, you got to try this show. Just watch a little bit, right? She watched one episode of season 2. She's like, okay, I'm in. So we went back, rewatched season 1. Now we're watching the episodes sort of as they come out. And I actually got another show that I've been watching on Netflix called Love, Death, and Robots, which is like 15-minute episodes of like animated stuff. It's really cool. And she's not into that at all. But because they're such short episodes, she's into it, right? She's like, even if I don't like it, it's only like 15 minutes of my life.
It's not an investment. She could be okay with giving that up. That's what it is.
Yeah, I know. Right. It's like, I should have thought of this years ago. But anyway, I'm very happy that we found some shows to watch together, which is super cool. So we've been doing that, enjoying that, and hanging out. Yeah, so going well.
I hear you there, man. I mean, that's the one thing. Me and the girlfriend, she was never into shows and like watching TV and movies and stuff, and I'm like completely obsessed with it. But I don't like to do it on my own, as weird as that sounds. Like, I like being with people when I watch movies and stuff like that, so we can kind of talk about it and break it down. And I've turned her into a movie and TV show fiend at this point. Like, we're watching, we're almost done with Letterkenny, and really we could have finished it, but we're like sad that we're nearing the end. So we've like delayed
holding on to it.
Yeah. So we're watching Letterkenny. We're watching Legion. We're halfway through that show again, which I freaking love Legion. And then we are watching obviously Game of Thrones. I kind of gave everyone that update that we just watched The Red Wedding. She had no idea what was coming. None. And I just sat there like all happy and celebrating at the wedding. Oh, she's like, oh, she looks so pretty. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? And I'm like totally like playing into like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then I look over and she's like in tears. Like, and it was ridiculous. So that was fun. Awesome. And then I started rewatching Futurama. I don't know why. So good. Yeah, I just put it on one day. Like, now I'm just watching it in order. It's such a good show.
It's, with Futurama, I start watching it and then I get like a season and a half. And then for some reason I just kind of get bored with it and I sort of put it down. But it's so good, right? When you get back into it, those first few episodes, it's like,
they're so good. When Fry stays in his room with them and he's like, well, where can I put this? Like, we'll put it in the closet. And there's a whole like house behind it.
My ringtone on my phone is the Futurama theme song. I love that.
That's awesome.
Great.
Let's see, learn a little bit about each other right here on the Rewind with everybody.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So next up, let's make sure to thank our adventuring party this week, all of whom donated during the premiere of the previous episode. So we have quite a raid group here. This is a large group. We want to thank everybody who donated. It actually enabled us last week to give away a second pledge just from this group, really jumping in and donating towards the show. I think we gave pretty much all of it back last week in the pledge, right?
Pretty much.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We're really excited for our winners, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let's go through our raid party because it's a big one. We're ready to tackle Sleepless this one, I think. We have Kelly DeCourcy. She's the archive wizard. That could be a male. So Kelly can be either. We don't know. We haven't interacted.
Archive wizard is the important part.
Yeah, archive wizard. There you go. I don't know what we're going to put on whatever you see there. We have to put like a question mark. We have Aaron Ellis. This was the Scar Necro. We have Vendini, the elf druid. We have Grogu, the human warrior. We have Dustin Harms, the archive druid. Stands in Fire, the dark mirror dire lord. Can they even be dire lords? I guess, huh?
I don't know. I think for this, we can be whatever.
Oh,
we can make up
whatever.
any race class combination we like. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with it. Crow Singing, the halfling druid, back to her roots. Dan Johnson, the human ranger. Jason, the human monk. Ziplox, the dark mirror rogue. Brian Reck, the gnome summoner. Words into Worlds. What? I don't think you spelled this name right here. Dark mirror necromancer. Sparrow, the elf ranger. Bounty Code, the human paladin. Shuriken, the archive wizard. We have Preston 27, the gnome rogue. Love it. And he actually won last week. We'll talk about that in a second, but gnome rogue. Nice. Got another rogue in. Dalmos, the dark mirror enchanter. And I know he's been on here before, but I was too lazy to go back and we didn't fill it out. So Grizzly is now a bear warrior.
I saw that you added that. I was like, I forgot about that. All week I was looking at him like, we got to figure out who that is. We got to figure out what they are. I just totally forgot about it.
I'm pretty sure they've been in a group or raid party before. I could have literally just gone back and looked at a different one, but putting the image of the bear there with the warrior symbol, I think is great. So we're going to go
any
Grizzly.
To use the bear image. Yeah.
Yeah. Any excuse. So Grizzly, the bear warrior. It's awesome.
Nice.
And a big congrats to our giveaways, as we were talking about from last week. So Preston 27 and Nevzat, they both got alpha access pledges, which is awesome. So again, that all came right out of the Pantheon Plus funds from all your donations. Again, we've really told you guys we're not using this to get rich or invest in Bitcoin. We like to give it back to you guys. No Doge with the Pantheon Plus money. Yeah. So just the biggest thing that I really want to make sure to say here is we really appreciate the donations. I hope that you guys enjoy the giving it back to the community. You're all part of that. You should have some pride in that as well. But honestly, that's great and we love it and thank you. But simply subscribing, following us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, adding comments to our content, helping us keep the conversation going, hitting the thumbs up, like all of that stuff helps us more than you could ever imagine because our goal will always be to give back to the community. So we hope that with all the support you guys do for us and give us, that we're able to reflect it back in a way that you guys are proud of as a community. So thank you guys for all that. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone.
All right. So Theric, we're starting this week with a dev tracker.
I love it. Let's go, man.
10-4, good buddy. I hear ya. Looks like a dev is dropping some new information. I'm heading in.
Okay, in this week's Dev Tracker, Joppa talks about infamy. Well, sort of. So in Discord on 525, this is the unofficial Discord, there was a lot of talk about instancing versus non-instancing and how to have, open content without guilds monopolizing content. And we've heard the word infamy. And I guess that's why I wanted to drop this in here because we're going to get into a little bit more of a conversation around it. I'm just going to tell you guys, the quote isn't, I wouldn't say it's like the juiciest thing we're ever going to get, but infamy was mentioned. Joppa said this. He said, infamy was a system I started designing while Brad was still alive, but it was actually because I had some strong misgivings about the approach that he wanted to employ, which was essentially Vanguard's advanced encounter system. So I said, I'm going to go design something better, essentially. I wasn't able to fully complete the design before he had passed, but it was far enough along that he was very excited about what it was becoming. So again, that quote doesn't give us a ton except for this. Infamy is still alive. Brad was on board with it, and it might be what can change our opinions on what's possible versus open world and instancing and how this system can change some of the ill things we've had in the past without going to a system that a lot of people are afraid of and instancing. So I thought it was pretty important to highlight, right?
Yeah, it's a great catch. It's sort of a follow up to our conversation last week, right? And we talked about instancing, a lot last week. And this is like this is the secret weapon that they've sort of mentioned a few times and alluded to. We don't know exactly, what it is about yet, but it's a really it's good to know that it's still in the works and it's still something Joppa really believes in strongly and is working on getting it in motion there. So it's a good find.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of Vanguard fans in the community. And Theric, I know you spent some time on Vanguard. So it was really interesting to me to hear about this advanced encounter system and know nothing about it, right? Like I read it. I'm like, I don't know anything about this system. So I went to Zelik. For anybody who doesn't know him, he's part of the Pantheon community. He also runs and is pretty much the main, hand behind the Vanguard emulator server. And if he's not the main hand, at least he is to me, because I talk to him all the time and he's really helped me in that. And we've shared a lot of stories and it's been fun. So knowing that he's working on the Vanguard emulator and what he has experienced in the past with Vanguard, I was like, hey, maybe Zelik can, help me out. So I actually asked him if he could kind of break it down for me in a way that I would understand it. So here's what he had to say. He said it was basically an encounter system that was supposed to handle everything from NPC reactions, available quests, special spawns, etc. He's like, honestly, I'm not sure how much of it got put into the game, but here is an article which describes part of it. So he linked this short explanation here that I want to read to everybody because it's kind of neat. He said, so to prevent overcrowding and competition for existing monsters and loot, Vanguard will have an advanced encounter system keyed off of monster loot. Essentially, while all dungeons will have wandering monsters that will let casual hunters get in a few fights, some monsters will drop encounter-specific items, such as a bracer, which when equipped will spawn all new monsters along an encounter route. These monsters may be targeted only by the party that possesses the item, so these adventuring parties will have no shortage of enemies to fight and won't have to worry about other players stealing them away. Once an adventuring party has such an item, it will be led along an encounter route by a series of on-screen clues that will continuously bring the group into contact with more encounter-generated enemies that will only fight them, leading up to a climatic end at the dungeon's quest. This particular dungeon we watched as a giant skeleton rose from a crypt to attack us. Defeating it set the stage for the final encounter, a huge insect-like creature who, before attacking, demanded to know what puny adventures had disturbed its slumber. So that was a really cool article that Zelik shared in his little bit of feedback there. And it was pretty interesting because it was like this using instancing in the open world in a sense. It was almost like phasing. It kind of made me think of phasing like some games have done before. But Theric, I know you sort of had another piece on this that you found as well.
I did, yeah, because I wanted to go back. I couldn't remember what the advanced encounter system was, to be honest, and I played Vanguard quite a bit. So I was actually researching it and looking through it, and I searched on the forums, and I actually found a post by Brad from 2016. Somebody was asking, about raid content being like in Vanguard, which they thought was not a bad thing. And Brad replied to it. He said, yeah, probably something like that, eventually evolving into the advanced encounter system we'd originally planned for Vanguard, but didn't get entirely in, which is an important point there, I thought. Yeah. He went on to say, I guess the main point is that while it's an open world shared environment, dungeons and outdoors, and not instanced, that doesn't mean there won't be a system of locking out certain mobs in certain circumstances. For example, if a group is taking on a boss or a named mob, how much person not in that group can interfere or influence will likely be more limited than in a regular fight. So you can see there what Jop is saying, Brad had the ideas for the advanced encounter system from Vanguard, wanted to migrate that, bring that over into Pantheon. But, like Jop said, he had some misgivings about it, came up with a new idea, brought it to Brad, and Brad was like, oh, wow, let's move forward with that. I like that idea and let's move forward. So it's kind of neat to see the evolution of this, right? And, we like we talked about it last week a lot. We don't know the answer to the problem. And there's ideas and there's thoughts and community people have lots of things to say about this, right? But I'm really, it makes me just more interested to know what this infamy system is going to, what it's going to look like. If it's coming from the advanced encounter system model or the template, and then what that's going to look like at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting because I think it still paints a picture, even though Joppa doesn't want to go with this exact system. I think it does paint a picture of the overall goal that both systems are looking to accomplish, which is we don't want outside interference when it's not necessary or when it's counterproductive to the goals of the game or the goals of your group or just having fun. Joppa always says, is it fun, right? And it's interesting because I think both these systems, again, we don't know anything about Infamy, but I'd imagine that they all they have the same goal, right? It's just like, how do we get there instead? It's interesting.
Just to sort of protect the fun, to protect the encounter in some way, right? And just knowing that there's other options other than instancing is really cool, and I love that. So I'm excited for it.
Hey, I've said this 100 times. I know I've made some bold statements saying, in instancing, this can be done. I don't think it can be done in open world. But, I've also said, and a lot of people ignore it, is that I'm ready for VR, Joppa, or whoever undertakes this to prove me wrong 100%. It's just going to be a lot more work to get a very similar result. So I wonder, if they're able to pull it off, kudos. And I'm ready for them to pull it off. I just hope we have the depth of encounters that we can get in an instance system. As long as we can do that in an open world, I'm in, right? Like, it doesn't need to be instance. I just almost feel like it's easier for them. Like, let's give them a break on something, right? Like instead of having to reinvent the wheel on everything. But again, I'm excited for this. And it looks like, Joppa's been very excited for this for a long time, back when him and Brad were digging through this and building this system. So I can't wait to hear more on Infamy personally. Fingers crossed that we hear something soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon. It would make for a good VR update.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into the next section here, VR news and notes. This week in Visionary Realms news and notes. Okay, so we have 2 questions today in VR news and notes. The first one here is a pretty interesting one, and it's fun. I really enjoyed reading through the Twitter things here. So community debate. What are your thoughts on pickup groups in MMORPGs? So I think we've all had our nightmares, but we've all met some of our best friends. So let's hear some of the stories and thoughts from the community here. So we're beginning with Libwick, which, by the way, Derek, I hear he makes a very good wine.
Yes. Just this week we learned about Libwick's wine business, excellent wine business apparently. So yeah. So
Libwick, the wine connoisseur, he says, a necessary evil, LOL, but no, but it is a dice roll. Sometimes you just happen upon such fun new people, and what's better than that? Or you're stuck with people you'd rather not be around. Skills do seem, however, less important to me with pugs. Also, a group of pugs, by the way, which are dogs, is called a grumble.
What? Is that true? I did not know that. I grew up with pugs. My mom had pugs throughout my childhood. Yeah, and I've never heard that before.
If that's true, that's hilarious.
And
if it's not, I'm sticking with it anyway. So Basgrim jumped in. He said, I really like pugs for content that doesn't require flawless coordination and communication. They're often more convenient, and meeting new people, making new friends, learning different views, etc. are all good things. So good answer by Basgrim.
Yeah, it's sort of like a trial run. If you don't want to, you just sort of want to learn something, do something the first time, and you don't really care how, if you're being most efficient or you're doing anything the right way. It's pugs are good for that.
Yep. Angs says, pugs make MMOs engaging and exciting. It's a great way to meet new people, friends, playmates, form lasting bonds, and forge nemesises. And he says, yep, that spelling is correct. Is that nemesis? Nemesis?
No, you know what? I'm going to trust him to say that nemesis is correct. It doesn't sound correct.
When you say it,
it doesn't feel right off coming out of your mouth.
Okay. Well, Nemesis, it would be Nemesis, right? That's what I was thinking.
Or Nemesi, like octopus is octopi, right?
I don't know. I'm going to say, let's go with Nemesis.
Okay.
So they may play their class differently than usual and let us learn something new. Plus, we were all pugs once. We were.
Yeah, that's true.
Basement RPG says, every friend I make and guild I joined in EQ and EQ2 started with a pug. I love pugs and look forward to pugging in Pantheon. True statement there. Kath Clark says, I like them. You can meet your best gaming buddy ever in one or your worst nightmare. Either way, they can be memorable.
Yeah, it's never neutral. It's either good or bad every time. There is no neutral pug.
Sometimes you get that guy who comes in the group, does his job, doesn't say anything, and leaves. You're like, oh, all right, well, that works.
It's like the vanilla ice cream of.
Yeah. Lucille says they're very difficult to find, but good pug groups really is the best thing in an MMORPG. Usually it requires a lot more planning and leadership, but when you can find one, don't ever let it slip away. It's a good point there.
Nice.
Jorgen Wickstrom says, in my experiences, pugs are okay if the content is trivial. Once the content starts getting challenging, pugs become a nightmare. It's kind of, Badgegrim was kind of saying that, but didn't throw in the nightmare part. So I agree a lot with that one. A lot.
Yeah, I think he's probably right about that. I think he's probably right.
Danar says, pugs are how you meet new people and are typically just fun. Dungeon finders are crap, creating an environment for toxic behavior. So as long as I can make the pug or join one others create, I'm cool.
Mm-hmm. There's something about it like forming organically. There's something that adds to the pug itself. It's just how it forms, right? If it's just thrown together, if it's automated, if it's like all these modern things that we have, that takes away from the pug.
Why do you think I played a tank so much in my life? Because it was easy to get a group. I could make a group. Okay, tank looking for healer and whatever DPS. Boom, 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 boom.
Everybody wanted, yeah.
Yep. Now, like, I'm going to try to use this not so stardom of the Pantheon Plus community here to hopefully pull me in DPS, right? Because you got to have those connections. Yeah. If you play DPS, you need connections or else you're waiting forever. So
this is the whole reason we're doing this podcast, just to get ourselves into groups.
You guys, like we addressed last week, you guys thought we were trying to do this to be rich. No, I'm just doing this for a good group placement and so I can play DPS. This whole 3-year plan and guild and all this stuff, I just really want to make sure I can always find a group. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you, man. Got to do what you got to do.
All right. The last person here, I did a double post and I have them both here. So we'll read through it. It's from Bob Robertson. And Bob says, the best thing another MMO does is allow you to heart a fellow pug if you did a good job. If you could create a system where you could rate pugs, that would be excellent. As an example would be, a pug joins with a racist or bad name and refuses to listen, helps the team, and because they are the healer, you don't want to kick them. So you wait 20 more minutes for a replacement, so you put up with them. Sure, you can report them, but why can't you just rate them? Lower rating means later in queue and play or an actual punishment for bad behavior. And I'll add on, he didn't say this, but maybe it's even like in their profile, like percent approval rate, like it's on Amazon for sellers and stuff. Pug approval rate. Yeah. That's funny.
It's an interesting idea, and it's not one that I've heard ideas like that before when it comes to Pantheon and how to deal with bad behavior, like, rating systems and that kind of thing. And it makes me think of like, if you play like MOBAs, right? At the end of the match, you rate your teammates or that kind of thing, give them a star or something like that.
And they don't let you like rate anybody that's on your friends list or anybody you joined with.
Yeah. So that's probably where that's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go first and give him my opinion here, Theric, on this one. Like I pugged in Blade and Soul and I met Haya. And I built a guild in WoW and I'd pug every once in a while to find new members and I met Poiru. Two of my best friends in the world. And technically I pugged in Pantheon Plus to try to find another content creator or someone who knew lore. And there you were. So I pugged you, talking to you in some of our early videos where you just kind of submitted pieces. And then, one conversation led to another. And now you're stuck with me.
Yeah. All good guilds start with good pugs, man. It is true. And somebody said that, I've got 5 rules for pug life, if you will. This is what we're going with. All right. So here's the pug life rules. Number 1, you got to go into a pug with the right mindset, right? Like it's the Wild West. Somebody said in Twitter, lots of people said, could be good, could be bad. You got to just accept it for what it is. Number 2, you are trading convenience for efficiency, of course. Maybe messy, but that's about learning. And that's what Basgrim was saying. Number 3 is that, man, you know what? People are interesting. You just got to embrace the weirdness. Like if you can find joy in the weird personalities that play MMOs, you'll get a lot out of pugs. This is something you need to embrace. Yeah. All right. Number 4 is it might last 10 minutes. It might last a lifetime. And if you don't like it, just leave. It's not hard. Just walk away. It's a pug. You're able to do that.
But loot, and the last one is loot.
Well, loot is not worth any, some guys making it a bad experience, man, just get out of there, right?
Sometimes I just flexing on those people. Like even with you sucking, even though you suck, I'm still going to carry you through this. So you remember me.
Yeah, you and I have different strategies, and I have no problem believing that would be your strategy. I would probably be just like, you're not worth my time. I'm out. Like,
it can't
whatever,
be the
dude.
healer though. Like if the healer has to be safe. If the healer's bad, then I'm gonna go by your roles. But if it's like a DPS, I'll flex. Definitely.
Nice. Well, there you go. That's one way. And then the last rule of pug life is that pugs are a chance to make a name for yourself. Honestly, like, what if you're like somebody's really impressed by your play and offers you like a spot in their guild? All right. So you got to think of it like a job interview, maybe, that you don't know you're on at all times. And you know, if you really are playing the game, and seriously, and you want to have a good reputation, you want to, get in with a good guild, just think of pugs as like an opportunity to show your stuff. So I like that. Now that's sort of how I look at pugs, but they're essential. And I, like you said, everything good starts with a pickup group.
I typically like pugs because there's two ways that I do it. 90% of the time, I'm going to lead the pug. And then I'm going to do my resume posting of looking for a group with all my reasons that I'm a really good pick. And typically that'll get me into a pretty solid group. And then I sometimes, even doing that, will try to take the lead of opinions and how we're going to run it. And like, hey, like, do you guys mind if I give you some feedback on how we could do this well? Oh yeah, no problem. Like, cha-ching.
Yeah, people love that too, man. People, it's like anybody who steps up to lead the pug is like,
I'm all about pug life, pug leading.
That pug life.
It's hard for me to just be quiet in a pug that's doing everything wrong though. I'm not going to be toxic, but it's just like, I'm just sitting there like, guys, like, can I please give advice? And if they're like, no, I'm like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah. There you go. That's fair, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
Just walk away. You know what? If you don't like it, screw it.
All right. So the next question here is also a really good one. What is the closest you have come to losing something significant in an MMORPG? We'll start with Gloth Drogan. I think I've been calling him Gloth Dragon, and that's not his name. It's Gloth Drogan. So Kenneth Finley. I'm sorry. Been mispronouncing your name. He says, my son, 3 or 4, logged into my cleric in a high traffic area where I was temporarily bound. Phone started blowing up. I lost a dozen levels at least to the death loop already. My wife took the kids shopping. I remember setting up remote access. And after reses, I only lost about 2 levels. So thank God for that.
Wow.
Whew.
Crazy.
Oh, man. That's why parents go to jail with kids right there. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah. For lesser things, no doubt.
For lesser things, yeah. And you may not cry over spilled milk, but lost levels, you can be crying.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Vimalto says, which is Volley Pantheon. We've already said we're going to stick with Volley Pantheon from now on because he changed his name.
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot.
He says he was camping Queen Draknia for Quistaline robes. I remember those robes. Said he had been for about a week or so and was asked if someone could join me. And he said he's never said really no to an offer to group. So he dropped within 10 minutes. The item dropped within 10 minutes of this guy joining the group. But he won the role. Would have been rather unhappy if it had gone the other way.
No doubt.
Totally.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Bad luck.
The next one here is from, Car Almet?
You know what? This is like an Irish name. I don't even, something like that.
He said, lost a tabard in WoW, which you could only get in 2006. Never thought about it until they implemented the achievement system. And then I noticed that I had the achievement for the event, but not the tabard. He asked to jam about it and they gave him back the tabard 10 years later. That's awesome. Now, I actually asked him about this. I said, hey, was this the tabard that you could right click and your character would flex and then like holy sparkles would fly off of you when you right click? It was so cool. And he's like, interestingly enough, no, but it's the same exact model of the actual tabard. So we got into a little conversation about that. It was pretty fun.
That's pretty cool.
Because I had that tabard.
You had that one, yeah.
The exploding
you were very
flex
proud
one.
of that.
Oh, use it all the time. We'd be sitting there and people be like getting prepared or doing what they need to do. And I hit the flex button and all the holy light flies off of me. Heck yeah.
Oh, I can see it.
Yeah. Next is Robbie. He says in Final Fantasy XI, he spent hours waiting for his level 7 equipment to sell so he could buy a level 10 equipment. Finally, kitted himself out in scale armor and then died and de-leveled on his way to the outpost. Couldn't equip my new gear anymore, he said.
Man. I think we've all had that happen at least once or twice when you lose a level and you can't wear that thing you were wearing.
Yeah.
It's rough.
says, yeah, I sold a rubicite breastplate to a vendor by accident once, while it was worth a ton. Thankfully, the people handling the game were nice enough to gift it back to me. Whew, crisis averted.
Wow, you would have been a great story if you'd been the person who jumped into the vendor right after he sold it and grabbed it. That would have been great.
And then, Theric, do you want to read this name?
No, I don't.
All right.
Okay, all right. Hold on. I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Travinchet Fandaniel. How about that?
Travinchet Fandaniel. All right. So this person says, happened to my wife. Some of the extreme trials and raids for Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers have the chance to drop a weapon themed to a specific boss. Early in the expansion, a boss dropped her class weapon, but she was so excited she left the dungeon before the role was complete.
Oh no! Jeez, she just ran out. You just like animation or something.
Just like exit zone or whatever. Oh, awful.
That's rough.
Now I actually grabbed two from Facebook. Look, I'm getting a little fancy here. I like these two stories. So on Facebook, we had Lori Ann Naylor. They said, other than permalost corpses in EQ, when your corpse would rot after 30 minutes with everything on it, my greatest loss was a game being shut down at Vanguard. Said, I'm not delusional. I know the game had its issues, but there's never been a world for me like Telon, and the community was a huge part of that. Losing contact with some of the many people that I would very often speak with every day has been extremely sad. I thought that was... Yeah. Awesome.
When we were talking earlier about Infamy and I was researching the advanced encounter system, I was going back and how you go down the rabbit hole, right? You get distracted and you're like, oh, I remember Vanguard. I want to read about why it shut down. And I started, sort of researching a little bit and going back down memory lane. And it's funny that this person said this because it's so true. I'm like, man, that was, if that game was still around today, like in its real form, original sort of, and not an emulation, like it worked. It could work. I don't know, man. It sucks that it's gone.
Yeah. I wish I would have got more time with it. And then finally, also from Facebook, Ryan Dodrill says, this was Final Fantasy XI. I played a red mage in that game. We were doing Danimus raids for those who know what those are. The red mage AF2 hat drops. For those that don't know what that is, it's an amazing item. 3 red mages were rolling on it. So he rolled first, and out of a roll of 1,000, he got a 996. He goes, he was so excited. He's like, I got it. And then the 3rd red mage rolls a 997. And he said, I screamed, LOL.
Oh my God. What are the chances? Like, it's so small. Like, oh. That's horrible. The poor guy. I'd probably quit the game. I'd probably be like, oh my God, nope, done. That's it. That's a tough one. I can't top either of those stories. I don't have anything. I've told a story before on the show about me potentially almost losing my epic quest item. So I won't tell that story again. When I think about losing things, I think about that stupid fletching box in EverQuest where you had to combine arrows and like, so many things, you put quest items in it sometimes to sort of like part of the quest was to combine things. I lost stuff trying to complete those stupid EverQuest broken quests that don't work and didn't, item would get eaten by the box. It happened a bunch of times. So that's for me, that's the closest I've come. So
that's great. Yeah. I mean, I told this story about in Southern Desert of Roe when I was farming the first AC. I'd never had J-Boots yet. And you just kill everything and hope he spawns. It's, could be quick, could never happen. I was killing him, and like I said, I told the story before, just killing everything in there, running around. I saw him. It was the first time I've ever seen the Ancient Cyclops. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm playing a wizard and I kite him into a corner. There's nobody around and I'm nervous and I'm like literally shaking. Like my hands are shaking and I'm soloing him and I kill him. And I watch the animation of, how they have that big fall. Like, so he starts to kind of like do the big fall and I go Link dead. And my heart stopped. Like, I'm pretty sure I had tears in my eyes. Like, wait. So I'm like rushing to log back in. I'm like having like I'm feigning breath. Like I'm so nervous. I was so excited and it just went to complete terror. And when I log back in, there's 2 people looting him. And I'm like, oh, and I didn't get it. Yeah, that was awful. Yeah, I was so disappointed. So disappointed. And again, this is before I ever got any J-Boots. That would have been my first ring to be able to do that quest. So.
Well, at least it didn't stop you. You got them eventually.
Yeah, 3-day spawn or 3-day camp, and I eventually got them for almost all my characters. So yeah.
Yeah, the things we did for that game.
Oh,
right?
Man. Had to have J boots. It was like I said, with clicking the tabard and doing the explosion of holy energy. When I got J boots, I just stood in East Common tunnels, like right clicking them with the red little that would go around you, and it would just say like, I think my character name was Bloodscar or something. It was like Bloodscar feels faster 7,000 times in the chat, just annoying the hell out of everybody with them. It's like, by the way, I got J boots. Just letting you know.
Yeah, everybody's moving away slowly from you.
Yeah. Okay, we get it. You got J boots. Click, 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 click. Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
All right, well, that's it, Derek, for VR news and notes.
When the Pantheon community speaks, we listen. So let's dig into the forums and fan projects to see what the discussion's all about.
All right, so our discussion this week comes to us from community member Viver on the official Pantheon forums. They wanted to gauge the community's thoughts on having a designated server for big streamers. They said, or should it just be like status quo and streamers can play on normal servers? So here's some context to how Viver framed their question. They said, in MMOs, there are always people who want to stream themselves playing the game. For those not streaming, there are two kinds of players. Those who love being on a server with their favorite streamers to participate in events that they put on, interact with their fan base, that kind of thing. But there's also players who want to have an undisturbed gaming experience, whether it's like for privacy's sake or because of the way the gameplay environment of a server tends to be impacted by streamers. They go on to say this can include population issues in certain zones, having to constantly hear in general chat about what said streamer is doing. And I've never seen an MMO officially tag some servers with streamer friendly. But in these modern times, the issue is almost becoming as important as finding the right server for you as a player if you're interested in PvE or PvP or RP. So anyway, they give their opinion at the end saying, I feel like it would be nice for everyone's sake. I feel like this would ease the burden on streamers and non-streamers alike. Streamers can sometimes feel attacked for wanting to do their job because others don't want them on their server. It'd be easier if they knew the server would be welcoming and they could cultivate the type of experience they want to have with their community. It'd also be easier for players who don't want that experience to join the server that doesn't have the streamer-friendly tag. So this is a really interesting topic, and I hadn't seen it discussed before, which is actually getting more and more rare as time goes on to find these sort of new discussions, right? So it actually generated quite a bit of discussion on the forums. And so Minus, I'm really interested in your opinion on this because you're a streamer. I'm not a streamer. I don't consider myself a streamer. I'm really interested in your take on the topic. So just jump in as we go along here because I tried to include some different opinions, different takes from the community. So let's start with them and hear what they had to say. The first up was our friend Disposalist, who we've mentioned before. And they said, personally, I'm not bothered. So I wouldn't want to see the community unnecessarily split. For lots of reasons, some may wish for their own play styles to be segregated, and if they were all catered to, we'd end up with this population split across a mass different server types with no one to play with. But maybe there should be some surveys done to assess the potential. So actually, that was my initial reaction with this question when I first heard it, and my first blush was like, yeah, I don't want to split up the population too much, right? You don't want to cater to everyone's preferences. But the more I thought about it, I thought like this might be kind of a unique case, right? It's not like a special rule set on a server. It's just like a different way of experiencing the MMO.
Yeah, it's interesting. So first of all, let me be very clear. This whole thing started with big streamers. Maybe I stream. I'm not a big streamer. I don't foresee me being a huge streamer with a cult following of people. If anything, I see myself just getting killed all the time and having stuff stolen from me because, there's Minus. Let's torment him.
Targeted more than anybody else.
Yeah. So let me be real there. I agree with this. I don't. I've played almost every MMORPG. I don't think I've ever had an experience where there was a streamer running around that bothered me.
I was curious about that too, because I've never had that experience either. But then again, I didn't play WoW. So, and I think this is coming from a WoW primarily standpoint. Yeah.
So my first WoW experience was on Ice Crown, and it was a decent sized server. And then that server sort of died down a bit and got merged into, I think, MacLeod server or something like that. So it was a double server. It wasn't that popular. But when we moved off of that, we went to Proudmoore. And Proudmoore is the most populated Alliance server in the entire game, at least at the time it was. And the reason was because of the name of the server, Proudmoore. It was very welcoming to, LGBT community, right? So it was there was a lot of just welcome, people be nice to each other, Proudmoore, right? Like that's what it was. So we jumped to that server, very active, very friendly server for the most part. And I never saw any of that. Like I never saw any of that. Again, that's a huge server. So it's interesting to me because I'm curious as you read through these, if anyone's giving an example or these are all hypothetical.
Yeah, there is one that has an example, although I edited out the name. But I mean, think of who the biggest WoW streamer is you can think of. And that's basically what we're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the next person, Hemlock Reaper, said, I don't think we need a streamer tag for servers unless we're talking about settings available on that server that aren't on others that could benefit a streamer, such as like streamer settings in some games which mute the copyrighted music, or maybe an integrated heads up display. So this was an interesting take, and it's an idea that I'm going to talk about more at the end because I think it's something that potentially could make Pantheon really attractive to streamers, and that's pretty beneficial to a game's popularity, right? So interesting point. The next one was from Neck and Trost. They said, this is a Pandora's box that VR should approach with caution. If there becomes even the slightest perception that any sort of preferential treatment, whether it be true or not, this could potentially lead to catastrophic results. Things like, levers being pulled behind the scenes to adjust drop rates, experience rates, all that for streamers. So I think that's a very valid concern. Not that it would actually happen, but that there would be suspicion of it happening. I think that our minds,
let's just make up our own. Like you put a video out, like a Pantheon Plus video by Theric. Was Minus given unfair daggers during our last play session?
Oh, that's clickbait, man. That's clickbait heaven. We'll get the views on that for sure.
Oh, that'd be funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a valid concern. So something to think about.
I'm going to tell you the truth. Like, I don't think that happens as much as people think it does. Like we were joking the other day, like watch us get online like day one somehow. Like, cause my internet's really fast, right? Like my computer's really good. There's a good chance I could get on and my internet could get me through some of the hiccups maybe. So like watch me be on streaming and people can't log in and Minus is given preferential stream. Like this is random, right? Like, Pantheon Plus is allowed on. That's that streamer privilege. That 99% of the time, I really think that stuff is completely crap. But again, let me be very clear. I'm not a big streamer, so I doubt that that's going to be me anyway. So.
No, and it's funny how people there was two ways of looking at this question. Some people thought it was a punishment for streamers, and some people thought it was an advantage for streamers. So it's like, it really tells you that there is no right answer here. It's just how you look at it.
No.
The next one was from Gottbeard, and they said, it's a very real problem, but I don't know if segregation is the solution. And they had a good take on this because it was from a PvP perspective. They said, in PvP games, every single act of aggression towards a streamer is observed as stream sniping. And some dev teams even go so far as banning people who harass their streamers. Creates an artificial hole in the content.
Is that real? So wait, you're saying develop? I would like to see an example of that. If someone is, so here's the thing there. So they're saying
a Fortnite
that
thing, I think.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So they're saying that they're banning people who harass their streamers. They probably would ban anybody who harasses at that level. But the difference is the streamer has it on film. And it's like, no, here's what happened. This person's harassing, cheating, blah, blah, blah. I'm not putting it against some companies doing this, but I don't think that's the norm.
No, I think it's like something that just has become more visible, right? Like you see it more in these ginormous games like Fortnite, League of Legends, where League of Legends doesn't really apply, but Fortnite more so, where it's like, stream sniping and that kind of thing. I remember in Hearthstone, that was a thing, there was a lot of like the streamers.
Well, if you're streaming in Hearthstone, you're an idiot. You're showing
you're
your hand.
It away, right? And people can see your hand.
You deserve to get beat that way. You're an idiot. True. Seriously, you're an idiot. Here's my hand for the whole world to see. Oh, but except my opponent shouldn't be allowed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, totally true. Anyway, they go on to say, streamers tend to warp the reality of games around them. I can see many people having reason. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I've never had the experience. So I can't say for sure, but maybe this person has had that experience.
You know what's going to happen? I'm going to get all the rogues behind me. I'm going to kill all the elves. I'm going to warp reality. That's what's going to happen. Don't be on my server. All the elves will die. God.
You're going to warp the reality for sure.
I'm going to warp your reality.
Nice. That's pretty powerful, actually. Yeah. So anyway, that was an interesting PvP perspective. The next one was from Jobson, and they said, what is VR going to do? Ban the streamers for playing on the wrong server? I don't think streamers would want to be all on the same server anyway. And it's
I know
a good point.
Basgrim doesn't want to be anywhere near me and Nathan. Me and Nathan, that we're trying to all put our guild and his guild on the same server and be alliance right away, which will be hilarious if we could do it. But I'd imagine Basgrim's like, I don't want to be anywhere near these guys.
I don't know, man. I don't know
know.
what the strategy would be, because it's kind of like there's advantages and disadvantages to both if you're all on the same one or maybe on different ones. But
We could make like this whole story that seems real, like with Nathan and us being rivals. Like we join together, then something happens, and it's all just a ruse for clicks.
And meanwhile, there's people that would be like, I don't want to be on the same server with any of y'all. Put me on the non-server with these morons, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's how some people would feel about it, right?
Yeah,
That's
like
sort of
Fragile.
what people are talking.
Fragile doesn't want to be with us.
Yeah. Moving on.
Hey,
Yeah, I
community
think the
matters.
key takeaway for this one here is that if you're talking about enforcement, right, that needs to be part of the conversation if we're doing this, right? If you're going to implement this rule, because how do you enforce this? What lengths do you go to? It's it might create it just creates more work to manage the game, really. So I don't know about making a rule.
What if they were talking about like advantages from streamers? So let's say like we've talked openly that we want the Plus Guild to do like community events, like big server events, right?
Right.
What if VR is like, well, hey, we'll give you some of these items to give away? Is that a bad thing?
The people who would not be playing on a server, if we weren't playing on a server that was designated as streamer friendly or tagged that way, and that happened, yeah, people on the other servers would then complain because they say, "Wow, how come we don't have the option? We didn't get that."
Because you're not hanging out with us, cool kids. That's why. No, I'm kidding.
And that's that's exactly it, right? That's what people don't want. They don't want to separate that, and I can understand that to an extent. I kind of agree with that aspect. The next person, Beaver Biscuit, said, I think segregating streamers is a very good idea. This would allow servers with a streamer tag to get special attention that streamers tend to ask for, just like you were saying. If they have too many fans dueling or trolling them. Streamer tag servers can have special chat channels that allow for stream hype. Streamers could join these servers with confidence that every potential fan there at least does not mind their existence, and there's a lot of potential. So he's talking about removing barriers, streamers face. Maybe seems like a good idea. Maybe a separate chat channel, although I don't know. But anyway, yeah. And then,
Discord.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I mean, I was just thinking like Discord, right? So couple more. Shadowbound said it's a good idea as long as it doesn't have cost implications and it allows those people who wish to participate in the circus that inevitably, and this is the one who was sort of talking about Asmongold a little bit. He said, more importantly, like avoiding that circus. Just imagine you spend a vast amount of time and effort leveling a few characters, obtaining equipment, everything else that goes with that. And then you come home one day and a big popular streamer decides your server is their new home. And every time you get home from work, it's impossible to even log on to your server because your characters are hosted on because the herd is overloading it. There's queues and that.
So question, because you edited this, and if you don't mind, like, so he's obviously talking about Asmongold. Did this actually happen to him, or is it still hypothetical?
I don't know, man. The post wasn't specifically in terms of like,
so
yes, this happened to me. I'm assuming it felt hypothetical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't know. If anybody in chat or if you've had this happen to you, like, leave a comment, let us know, because this is the kind of thing that, like, this is a very modern issue, a very new issue, even, you might say. So, the next one was from Fulton. They said, this is a good point. Pantheon's going to be a sub-based game. So these so-called toxic followers would have to be subscribers already. So, those that want to like just create a free account and join the fray, and like sort of follow the herd kind of thing, like the last person was saying, they wouldn't be an issue because it's a sub-based game. Any followers that are already subscribers most likely know and abide by the general server rule set and the play nice policies. The counterpoint to that is, and what I would say is that, WoW is a sub game. So and I think this is a lot coming from WoW. I can't confirm that, but, I don't know if the subscription
Eric,
makes a difference there.
I just realized something.
What's that?
Everybody here has teed me up for the ultimate comment. And I'm just sitting here smiling now because I just realized it.
Okay.
Everybody's using WoW and Asmongold. I can't. I'm too excited.
No. Okay,
so everyone's holding it for Asmongold, and this. All these people show up, and there's all this activity. I thought WoW wasn't a social game, Eric. I thought it was all instants, and you never grouped with it. I mean, where are all these people coming from? How is there all this social environment being created by these streamers? Because there's no social atmosphere in WoW. It's just click, go to a dungeon, get free loot. So what are they even talking about, Eric?
How dare you point out the inconsistency of beliefs? What? How dare you, sir? That is just not fair.
It just hit me, and I'm like, I can't wait till he's finished reading this. I feel so.
Insight, man.
You guys set me up. Thank you. I think some of you might have done this purpose. Good.
Nice. You. That's the comment of the show for sure. Nice. And then the last two are from.
That's the clip.
Okay. Yeah. I'll do a little preview thing. We'll get it. The last two are from our friends, Words into Worlds, aka Redbeard Flynn, and Breakout, who are both, like you talked right at the beginning about small streamers, right? Just starting out, or people who don't have these huge followings. And I think this is a really important point because Words into Worlds said, please no, I would not want to be forced to pick between streaming Pantheon and having an organic gaming experience. Don't put us in a corner. And Breakout said also, no, please, since I've started streaming, I've made quite a few friends and even have a guild I'm pretty excited about. I want to be able to play with them and not be forced to play on a certain server because I happen to also be a streamer. So excellent points, just along the lines of exactly what you said. I don't have anything else much to add to this, but I mean, I'm not a streamer. Content creation and streaming are two different things. Well, maybe we'll see. Right now, I'm not a streamer, and I don't consider content creation to be the same thing. I don't watch streamers. I don't follow what they're doing or saying. I don't really, except for
you watch me.
Yes, I was just gonna say. I mean, except for us, because I have a vested interest because I'm part of this. But I don't watch Asmongold. I don't watch any of these other big streamers. I've never found watching a game as enjoyable as playing a game that I could be playing. Having said all that, there's a reality that streaming is part of our current. The games industry. It's part of the MMO genre, and whether you like it or not, you have to accept and acknowledge it. And I think, like I said earlier, I think Pantheon can do a lot of good things here in terms of making Pantheon a big game that attracts people, interesting to people, by facilitating streaming to a certain extent and allowing, and I don't want to put like a rule set on a server, but I think tagging a server as being, streamer friendly, or, just so you know, this is, if you want to be on this server, we're going to do the music thing like I talked about so they don't get the DMCA strikes, that kind of thing. Facilitate it, don't give them stuff. Don't give them advantages. Just remove the barriers to streaming, I think. It's not a terrible idea. Don't make it a rule. Just make it a tag, make it a thing. And then I think that's probably where you want to end up. But you've said pieces along the way here. Do you have anything else on this you want to add?
Yeah. To the team at Visionary Realms, like Derek just said, I don't want a whole lot of like special things, and all I really want is just my rogue. Can I just have a little more armor class than everybody? Maybe a taunt mechanism and a little bit better tanking than other rogues, and that's all I'll need. Like, you guys don't have to do a whole lot. Just make my rogue tankable, and we'll be fine. No, jokes aside, I am. As far as the Pantheon community goes, I'm very, very much against any servers that aren't regular RP PvP. That's it. I don't want any toggle servers. I don't want a server where you do this. I don't want a server with a cash up, without a cash up. I don't want anything. I want, I don't know how many servers, but let's just say there's 10 servers. I want, 7, or let's go 6 regular servers, 2 RP servers, 2 PvP servers, and that's it. I don't like the segregation. I don't like people thinking that they should be able to play an MMO how they want. An MMO is the things that we love about it, we love, and the things we hate about it, we get over. Because these games are made for so many different types of people, raised in the UK and in Europe and in Asia and in America and in, South America. Like, everybody plays these games. We've all been raised differently. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and be a game that caters to all the player types, but we're still different human beings. And I just don't want to have all these servers that placate to what we want. Like, play the game. There's a vision. You're going to get stuck and you're going to get frustrated by certain aspects, and you're going to love others. And guess what? Some of those things you're frustrated about or think you don't like, you're going to actually fall in love with. That's what gaming is all about. I do not like in any way, shape, or form anything outside of those normal servers. I think it's counterproductive to community, in my opinion. So that's my opinion.
Like, if you're on a server and a streamer, let's say a streamer starts up on your server and they
block them.
Well, not even block them. Just find something else to do. Go do content they aren't doing, go somewhere they aren't at in the world. Use chat filters, use, whatever tools are at your disposal to make it work for you. I mean, the world is not created for you. This, like we talked about instancing, this is not your world. This is every's world.
Turn this around on anti-instancing. You watch your tone.
Yeah, I'm just using it as like a template, but like, it's like, we have to sort of make do with the world that we have, and we can't just sort of customize these worlds so much. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the idea of maybe, just saying, tagging a server, not separating it by role style, but I hear what you're saying. I don't want to segregate people. I think that's what makes these interesting, like you're talking about, is the mix of people, the different play styles, the different what people want out of a game. I still
remember two guys on my servers that were the most annoying human beings in the world. One of them was named Dark Ice Mage. He was the biggest trade troll jerkbag in the world. I'll always remember him. And then one was named Solrak, who was also the same thing, but I actually destroyed him one day and he quit, which was probably one of my crowning achievements, or at least change his character name. Like I had hit a point where I was done with this guy, and I started like leading him through past conversations to the point where I kind of like turned everything on himself with his own words. And it was just like everybody blowing up the chat, like, oh, and then I never saw him again. I'm not even kidding. It was glorious. Yeah.
And see, if that was modern times, there would be this outcry, like toxic behavior, like get him out of here. Like, but that you remember that now.
Every good story needs a villain.
100%. 100%. Yes. And if Dark Ice Mage and Solrak are listening to the show, then leave a comment. Let us know how your life has gone since mine has wrecked you.
No, not Dark Ice Mage. He just went away, I think. But no, Solrak for sure. He'll be like, no, he didn't. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Man, if he does leave a comment, that'll be something else. Anyway, great discussion. I like that topic. I'm glad we had that discussion, and let us know what you think about that. Again, if you've had that experience. For our fan creations this week, I want to point out that our friend Singer finished chapter 2 of her story, her fan fiction, In the Sway of Storms. I haven't had a chance to read this one yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. And it's on the forums. I left a link in the show notes and the video description, so you can check it out. And that's it for this week's community discussions.
Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it gets here, I just yell, mail! We're getting sued. All right, we're wrapping this week up with the mailbox. We have quite a few questions here, but we'll through them here pretty quick as we're running a little bit out of time. But the first one here is from Ukbach. I think I got that right. A couple questions from them. They say, first, how many of the graphics animation shown in the last streams do you think will be final in the game? I would say that there's going to be a lot of changes. I mean, we're in pre-alpha.
Yeah, I think it's always a safe bet. I mean, this question is sort of like, I don't even know. I don't even know. If I was a dev, I could answer this.
Have you ever seen like the old pre-alpha shots of World of Warcraft and how different it looked? Like, even though they're putting a lot of work into these things, I just constantly think that as we get from pre-alpha to alpha, from alpha to beta to launch, there's just going to be so many upgrading of cleanup and little fixes or changes from an ideological standpoint that like, I thought this was cool. Maybe it's not. I think that, what's in place is going to be improved and used. It's not like all this stuff is useless, but I think there's going to be a lot of upgrades and changes and fancying of the game.
Yeah, tinkering, I agree.
Yeah. Will music sound be outsourced to get a similar high quality atmosphere experience as in EQ2 where they hired a composer and an orchestra? You want to start with that? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, highly doubtful. Highly doubted. An orchestra would be crazy. They're not, they've said many times they're not doing voice acting and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, with the music aspect, I think is in good hands. I know that Jop has talked about, he's done the music up to this point, but he can't continue to do it. Yeah. He's got too many other things on his plate. So I don't know.
So, yeah, I think they're probably going to bring someone else in to help with music. And I'm sure Joppa will have some input, but I don't think you'll have him doing it. Just, again, he can't do everything. Guy's doing everything. So, exactly. Won't a prodigy system, I think he's talking about progeny system, scare more people off to have to give up a character or max out stats? I'll start with this. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have to do off with the character. There probably will be something that happens to the character or maybe not. I do think, though, personally, and we've kind of gone back and forth, I think progeny is a bad idea.
we were going to do a big whole show or the controversy section about this because we haven't done it yet. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Progeny and I like it.
I think that as a system to help you with creating alts, like some benefits to alt creation or maybe a little faster leveling or things like that, totally cool. I do not want to have to make another rogue multiple times. I don't find that interesting at all. Like, I'm all about leveling alts, and if this system would help that alt experiments be even cooler, super awesome. But if it's to make my 15th rogue so I can get some bonuses, not at all something I'd want to do.
And the way that the direction lately has been is that they're putting it on the back burner for now, at least, or it's not a priority system right now in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Good questions. Thanks for those questions, Buck. I think it's the first time you gave some questions. Please do more. Gloxy says, should Pantheon have hell levels, Theric?
You know what? This is a good question because I have no idea why hell levels existed in the first place in EverQuest.
It was an error.
Well, is that what it was? Yeah, I think I read that.
No,
You're right.
it was 100%. It was an error in the code and they just left it in.
That's right. So I would say no. So, I don't think they added anything to the experience. So I guess maybe in your mind, like on some level, they were kind of an achievement that you got punished for getting to this plateau. It was sort of the game, like trying to fight back against you in a way is sort of what it felt like to me. And I guess maybe there's some value there, but I mean, little value. I don't know. I would say no.
Yeah, no, I think that just having a balanced attack to levels taking a long time in general is fine. I don't think there has to be like these, oh God, I'm 45 for the next 3 months. Like,
well, that's right. And it's because it didn't what were there was started at
every 5,
20?
like,
Did it?
Maybe.
Oh, it was like 5, 10, 20, 30.
I don't think it was like
40s.
I don't think it started till 20s or 30s. I wish I remember, but then it was like 35, 40, 45.
And then once you got to 45, it was like 45. They were all hell levels, right? It was like 45, 46, 47, all the way to 50, right?
It was rough. It was rougher, but no, we don't need hell levels. That's like one of those other EverQuest fun memory things that we can just let EverQuest have.
Let it die.
Yeah. Erin Ellis actually brought up a question here, and basically she's asking, in terms of class flexibility and limited action sets, what are your thoughts on each class having abilities that worked off different sets of stats? And she gives some examples, but essentially what she's saying is like, if you have more agility, this ability is stronger, but if you have more strength, this ability is stronger. And that's something, Theric, that originally, when all the classes were first shown and the old website had all the old abilities on it, that it told you what different primary stats affected the spells. And I'm pretty sure Joppa has said recently that that's still planned. Like that's still something they're looking to do. So we're not seeing it a ton in the abilities that are listed on the website right now, but I think that that's going to be a thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do remember him saying that. And I'm curious to see if it's still, how that's still sort of playing out. I think the idea in itself is awesome. I mean, it creates so much variation in terms of how the classes are going to look in the world. And I mean that literally because they're going to be wearing different equipment just based on different stats, what they want to emphasize, like Erin Ellis is talking about. They're going to have warriors that look different because they're looking for strength or maybe looking for con. And so they're wearing different gear. It increases the viability of different gear greatly. So
it makes loadouts, right? Like builds, like carrying sets of gear around and swapping into a different loadout, like where you actually can play different and enjoy your character in a different way. And that's so fun to me. Nothing is worse than if you learn your class at level 10 and that's how you play forever. That's boring. Like being able to adjust your play style and adapt and change for different scenarios. Like, and I'm not saying like, all of a sudden I could play like a monk if I'm a rogue. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like just literally playing my rogue differently from gear. I'm a guy who wants to have all my gear in a bag, like all this gear that I swap in and out of. Like I love that. I know people hate it, but I love having like 3 sets of gear on me at all time. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it would be cool because you're going to like for use a ranger, for example, people are going to want to put most of their, stuff into like agility or dexterity. But if I wanted to make a strength ranger that was focused on strength because there were some abilities that were dependent on strength, maybe not the majority or the most, but maybe one, I wanted to build a ranger that way. I think that's pretty cool. And I would look different because I'm wearing different gear that has strength on it. And it just sort of, it dilutes that meta a little bit, right? It sort of keeps the pressure on the meta from forming too solidly or at least spreads it out a little bit. You know what I mean?
Or makes it harder to achieve.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, Steven says, how should Pantheon handle stuck players? Are unstuck buttons too easily abused? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
It's twofold, right? So if there's not an unstuck button, you have to put a ticket in. You have to wait for a GM or someone to help you. And in a game that's very big or popular, that's a heavy load on the developers to have to fix that. So then if you have it, it's like a free gate, right? To like a nearby situation or something like that. So I would say that it can't be like if there is a gate system or a way to get back to your town, this unstuck button can't do that for you. It should have to put you somewhere like within that zone that's like a designated unstuck area. And then you have like a certain amount of time that unstuck button is on cooldown. And it's probably pretty long. That's the way I would do it.
That's really smart. Yeah, that's really smart. I actually had that in my notes too. I said stuck takes you to a really inconvenient place. Yeah. So rather than like a designated spot like you're thinking, I was like it drops you inside of a volcano or something like that.
Oh,
like
you have to climb all the way out of the volcano to get back. Like you were stuck in a spot you weren't supposed to be stuck in. Now you're stuck in a spot you're supposed to be in. Good luck.
Yeah, that's right. And I also thought of like you do like some public shaming. You put like a title on them, like recently got stuck or something above their head for 2 hours.
Debuff. This guy got stuck.
That was the next thing I was going to say. Stuck sickness. So not res sickness, right? What about stuck sickness? So these are the ideas I had for how to prevent it from being abused. But
stuck sickness. I like that.
There you go. That's my answer.
All right. Well, another episode of the Rewind. 57 episodes. Wow.
7.
Yeah. Did you ever think? Did you ever think like when we started this, we were going to be on 57th episode?
Did not think. Every week I don't think. I'm like, nope, this is the last one. Like, nope, we got nothing left to talk about.
Eric's looking for an out every week.
That's right.
That is a crazy point. Like, how do we continue to have something to talk about? Well, you know what? It's because the community is amazing. They always have something to think about. They always have something to talk about. They always have a different take, and it gives us a platform. So you guys make this happen. I was 100%. Thinking though, I wanted to jump in at the end of your community discussions, but you just segued so well into the mailbox there. So we have Crow Singer writing lore. We have Ben and I writing lore. We have Booch writing lore. You write some lore we haven't seen yet. Who am I going to get to help me with the lore for Minus? Like, who's going to be my, what do they call that? Like shadow writer or whatever it is? Like
your ghost writer.
Yeah, my ghost writer. That's like, I'm going to have to find one. We got to have. And by the way, I've decided it is episode 57, Halfling.
All right. Great. Wow. Excellent. That's a good,
I decided I can't deal with being an evil race.
No,
I just can't
really.
deal with. Like, I can't deal with like the frustration of getting killed in a big important town because I'm evil and having people just want to kill me all the time. I think I'm good with being a rogue that's kind of shifty and happy little halfling guy. Like, less people wanting to just kill me all the time. I like that.
You were tempted by the dark side, but you've come to your senses. You are at heart a happy, jovial, optimistic, fun-loving half.
Well, here's the other part, Theric. I shaved my beard and mustache. Not off, I just buzzed everything down. So I'm just doing the aftershave look now.
Okay, nice. Well, that helped with your decision, I see.
Yeah, I don't need to have facial hair anymore. Yeah.
Okay. So again, if you're listening to this, you're watching it, whatever, leave a comment. If you want to ghostwrite Minus's lore story. Oh
my God, we do one of those community, like somebody starts it and then somebody continues it. And then the next, oh my God.
It's like an amalgamation of everybody's thoughts on you. It's like this story is winding all over the place.
That'd be fun. I had an idea. I'm going to share this. What do you think of a Pantheon plus you episode called Design a Bard? We bring community members on to create bard spells and we put it all together.
Ooh. Okay.
That'd be fun,
let's
right?
workshop that.
Let's workshop. All right. Well, everybody, we kept going forever. The show was over and then we just kept talking because that's what I do, I guess. So everybody, thank you so much for another great episode of The Rewind. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to our crazy raid today. And thank you to anybody who donates, subscribes, follows, thumbs up, comments, and everything else, puts up with us. How about that, Theric?
Yes. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Pantheon Plus Rewind. Be sure to follow Minus and all Pantheon Plus related content on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube under the name Pantheon Plus. Also, be sure to follow Theric at Pantheon Theric on Twitter. Keep up to date on all Pantheon Rise of the Fallen information on www.pantheon.plus, the definitive source for all media of Pantheon. Until next time.